Morning, Jackie here from TBA Law. Happy Monday. So I do these Monday Facebook Lives at 10 o'clock most Mondays, unless it's a public holiday or I'm away. And because I'm a wills and estate specialist, a lot of them have been on wills, deceased estates, superannuation and all that planning stuff. So all of those are saved back on the page. You can go back and have a look at all the videos. But TBA Law does property law as well. And so I did a short series on conveyancing and transferring property. And I just did a 4-part series as well on living in the community with neighbours and the regulations around living with neighbours. So this topic this morning starts us off on a 5-week block where I'm talking about leases. So property again, TBA Law does do some leasing work, and so I take this opportunity to talk to you about over the next few weeks about leases. So these videos will be saved on the page, so you can go back to look at topics that are relevant for you at the time and tag people's names in them if they're relevant for someone that you know going through something. So leasing. Now, there's a broad range of leases, which is what I wanted to talk about today. So you have broadly your residential leases and then your commercial leases. All right. So TBA Law doesn't do residential leasing. Usually that's just done through a real estate agent and a property manager. So Consumer Affairs in Victoria is the regulator for tenancy, and similarly in other states they have a state regulator for residential tenancies. And they have a standard form of lease. So it's pretty easy to check whether you've got the right lease or not, and you're supposed to be given a brochure as a tenant before you go into a lease. So it's fairly standard for landlords and tenants to know what their rights are around leasing, because it's all pretty much the same. Now, within the subcategory of residential tenancies, there are also boarding houses, caravan parks, retirement villages where you lease the land but own the building. So all of those sort of come within residential tenancy as well, but they're their own subcategory and they have a different form. Same regulator. So just to be aware that residential tenancy is its own beast. If there's a dispute over residential tenancy, your first point of call is VCAT or a similar tribunal in any other state. So most of the time where there's a dispute over damage to the property, keeping a bond, all those sorts of things, it's the real estate agent who will make application to VCAT and will go and do that appearance for you. So that's why it's important to have a property manager, because if you don't have a property manager, you'll find it difficult to find someone who'll do that sort of work for you, okay? TBA Law doesn't do residential tenancies. The other side are the commercial tenancies, and this is what we do. The bulk of commercial tenancies are retail tenants. And in fact, some court cases over the last few years have pretty much determined that almost any business in a rental premises is going to be considered a retail business. Even if they're a wholesaler dealing business to business, the courts have still determined that that is retail. Services are all retail because you're selling a service, and obviously if you're selling products. So there's a couple of different categories within retail leases as well, and most of that surrounds what sort of building you're in. So the form tends to be the same. There are prescribed or standard forms that can be used, although they can be varied. And And the differences are, I suppose, freestanding building or building that has shared and common property, so you're only leasing part of the building, or if you're in a shopping centre. So those are sort of the three categories then of retail leasing. And then broader commercial leasing. So you might have a large commercial site and it's an industrial lease. And so there's no prescribed lease for this sort of thing. You can pretty much start your lease from scratch and just have a deed of lease for whatever you want in it. And similar with farmland, so you could have a farm lease, you could have an agistment agreement, you could have a variety, like it doesn't fit within the prescribed retail lease, so you're going to be able to make up whatever you like in your lease. So those, I suppose, are the broad range of leases, and TBA law deals with the retail leases and other broader commercial leases and farm leases. We don't do the residential stuff, so that is more of a property manager who manages the ongoing rent and whatnot of the building, and then will deal with any disputes. With commercial leasing, we don't manage those leases, so we prepare the lease. It's up to the landlord to keep their dates in mind. We'll help people with disputes, but we're certainly not managing the life of the lease, so that's up to the landlord. So this is the first of a series of 5 on leases. So it's a broad overview today of the types of leases that there are, and what we're going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks will be tenant rights and landlord rights, and then exiting a lease from both the landlord and the tenant perspective. So I will, like I said, save this video onto the page so you can go back and look at it when it's relevant for you, and tag anyone in it that you think might need to know about this topic. Otherwise, back 10 o'clock next Monday, and I hope you have a really great week. Catch you next week.